Hello, my name is Caitlin, and welcome to Country Kitchen Sweethearts channel. We are a locally owned baking store where you can find products and ingredients for candy making, cakes, cookies, and more. In this video, I will show you how to decorate a fall gingerbread house. Let us know in the comments if you have decorated a gingerbread house for fall and what you used to create your masterpiece. I used royal icing to decorate the walls and roof of the house, as well as to create decorative lay-ons. These lay-ons can be made on parchment or acetate over your desired drawing, or you can use our custom pattern sheets. Click the link in the description to view all of our pattern sheet designs. Continue watching this video to see this fall gingerbread house come together. Let's get started. To make this house, we will be using a large pre-made gingerbread house. Unpackage the house and set aside the smaller pieces except for the chimney, as we will not be using them. Using flood consistency royal icing, outline the door section of the house. Then outline the top window and flood, then use a scribe tool to smooth the icing. Pipe 2 diagonal lines with white icing for the window details. Next, outline and flood each window section using a scribe tool to smooth the icing. While the icing is still wet, pipe the diagonal lines. Flood the door section and smooth it with a scribe tool. Then, mark the center of the window section above the door and pipe a curved line. Fill in this section with flood icing and use a scribe tool to smooth it. Set this part of the house aside to dry at room temperature for 10 minutes. Once the icing has crusted over, outline around the windows and outside of the house with white flood icing. Flood the remaining space of this cookie with white flood icing, making sure to flood in sections. Be sure to work quickly on this step as the icing will begin to set up, and you want the white icing to form a solid background. Set this aside to dry at room temperature for several hours. Outline the door and window with blue medium consistency icing. Use this icing to pipe rectangle sections on the door for detail. Then, use medium consistency white icing to pipe horizontal lines on the front of the house. Take your time when piping these lines to ensure they are straight and line up with one another as you move up the cookie. Pipe vertical lines that alternate on each row, adding small dots to either side to give it a wood plank look. Finish this cookie by piping blue medium consistency icing around the square windows. To decorate the side of the house, start by outlining and flooding the sections of the windows. Use a scribe tool to smooth the icing, then pipe diagonal lines for some detail. Outline the windows and outside of this cookie, then flood with white icing. Smooth the icing with a scribe tool, then set aside to dry at room temperature for several hours. Finish this cookie by piping blue medium consistency icing around the windows. Set aside to dry completely at room temperature overnight. To decorate the roof, start by outlining each scallop with flood consistency blue icing. Allow this outline to set up at room temperature for 10 minutes. Flood the first and third scallop on the top row and use a scribe tool to move the icing to the outline. Repeat these steps for the second row and flood all 3 of the sections on the bottom row. You want to be sure the sections you are flooding do not touch one another, as they will create dimension once they dry. Allow these sections to crust over at room temperature for 15 to 20 minutes. Next, flood the middle and outside sections with this icing, using a scribe tool to make sure the icing covers the entire section. Set aside to dry at room temperature for 15 to 20 minutes. Flood the remaining sections using a scribe tool to smooth the icing. When flooding these sections, make sure the icing does not touch the next one. You can also flood the sections on one side, then allow them to crust over before flooding the remaining area. Set this cookie aside to dry completely at room temperature overnight. Next, outline and flood each brick section of the chimney, then set aside to dry overnight. Once all of the house sections are flooded and decorated, you can make the icing lay-ons. Using the fox template from the woodland pattern sheet set, start by outlining and flooding the top section of the head as well as the ears. Then flood the belly and top of the tail with white icing and the bottom section of the tail with orange icing. You want your icing to be slightly thicker than a flood consistency so it holds its shape. Use a scribe tool to smooth the icing and move it to the right section. Repeat these steps for as many lay-ons as you need, then set aside to dry at room temperature for 15 minutes. Once the icing has crusted over, outline and flood the remaining sections of the fox, then set aside to dry completely overnight. When the lay-ons are completely dry, use a black edible marker to draw on the eyes and nose. Use a poly blade to carefully remove the lay-on from the pattern sheet. If your icing is set up completely, they will come off very easily. To make the pumpkins, use flood to medium consistency icing to outline and flood every other section. We recommend starting with the outside and middle sections. Allow this icing to crust over before filling in the remaining areas. Pipe the stem of each pumpkin, then set aside to dry completely at room temperature overnight. Once the lay-ons are dry, carefully remove them from the pattern sheet with a poly blade. We will be making some leaves for our final lay-ons. Start by outlining and flooding the section of the leaf. Then, while the icing is still wet, use brown icing to pipe the stem. Once all of the leaves are made, set it aside to dry at room temperature overnight. Remove the leaf lay-ons from the pattern sheet by using a poly blade. The final steps are to assemble and decorate the house. Use stiff consistency royal icing to attach the house pieces. Pipe a shell border on the bottom and one side of the front of the house. Then pipe a shell border on the board for the side of the house. Attach these pieces to one another as well as the board. Repeat these steps for the back and other side of the house, making sure all pieces are lined up correctly. Add more icing to the inside of the house to make the connection more sturdy. Allow this icing to crust over for 5 to 10 minutes before adding the roof. Pipe a shell border on the slants of the front and back of the house, as well as the top of the sidewall. Attach the roof piece to this icing and hold in place while allowing the icing to dry. Repeat these steps for the other side of the house. If your roof pieces are sliding down, place an object at the base of the roof to hold it in place while the icing dries. Allow this icing to dry for 20 to 30 minutes. The stiffer your icing is for this step, the faster it will dry. Pipe a shell border on the slanted section of the chimney, then attach to the roof. Decorate the house with the fox, pumpkin, and leaf lay-ons by attaching them with royal icing. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us grow our channel and create more videos you will enjoy. Leave us a comment down below letting us know if you enjoyed this video and what products and decorations you like to use to decorate gingerbread houses. If you would like to see more videos like this one, check out the Fall and Thanksgiving playlist on our channel. Stay updated on our newest products by visiting our website and clicking on the New tab. You can also see our new products and video reels by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Check out the description box below to see our social media links. We love to see your creations and how you use products from our store, so be sure to tag us in your posts. Thank you again for watching. See you next time.